Well, Minorcan Navy, we decided we had to make a few modifications to our shrimp net, so we came down to Fernandina Beach and got with the best net maker in the world, Captain Billy Burbank. His conversation on shrimp net making, the history of Fernandina, and shrimping in general made for an amazing time. Captain Billy, how did your family get into the net making business?
It all started with a fellow by the name of Captain Bill Sr., William Hunter Burbank Sr., who was born on Cumberland Island. He, during his growing up days and all, he became a blue fisherman. He used to gill net bluefish up off the Carolina coast, Georgia coast, and around. Then at the age of, I forget exactly what age he was, but he was born in 1898 or 99, I think.
Oh, wow.
So in 1915, he bought a shrimp boat, got a shrimp boat, started shrimping, started making his own nets. Back in the days, it was kind of crude. There were some other people, Corcombs and different people that were making nets around, brought the otter trawl from Europe over here. So he started making his own nets, and his nets was outproducing anybody else's. So then that's when a group of, I think it was, I forget the exact name of the company that did it, but it was 5 or 6 boats out of Thunderbolt, Georgia, that hired him to build all their nets in the Thunderbolt area. Then, after a certain period of time, Standard Marine Hardware, which is located in Tampa and in Fernandina Beach, hired him to make their nets. So that's where it started. My grandfather made the nets underneath his house out at the main beach of Fernandina, underneath it, which the house was made out of an old railroad station out of Waycross, Georgia. They brought it in there and he built his house out of it, right 1 block off the ocean. And so in 1957, my father went back to work with him. Now, my father's brother worked with my grandfather during that time, so there was only 2 of them and a helper underneath the house. Well, my father went, after the Navy, went to work at a mill, Bowater or somebody like that in Alabama. We lived in Alabama 1 year. My dad said, ain't no way. So he asked my grandfather, you got any net business? He says, yeah, we got some. He said, well, I'm coming home. Is that house vacant in the back? Yeah. I said, I'm moving in. So that year, he thought he'd made a mistake, because I think $1,252 later, that's what he made that year after moving back to Fernandina. So lo and behold, my grandfather was ready to get out, so he pretty much turned the business over to my father. My father incorporated it, Burbank Trawl Makers Incorporated, in 1957. So during those years, during the 60s, when I was in grade school, up to high school and all, I used to work every day after school. Learned how to sew nets at 9 years old, because I watched my mother do it. I said, if she can do it, I can do it. So anyway, that's basically how I'm where I'm at today, because I learned from my grandfather and my father. I bought the business from my father in 1993. He died in 1996. And so here we are.
Do you have any idea how many nets the Burbank family has made through the years? Is there any knowledge?
Well, you could do an estimation. One that's interesting is Jack Rivers of the University of Georgia did a little survey one time about how much twine was in a 50-foot mongoose net. And I forget how many miles it was, but it was miles of twine in a 50-foot net. When you take every row, every knot, whatever, I mean, it was something you would never dream of how many miles was in there. But back in the day when we worked with Standard Marine, when I graduated from 1 year of college and really became full-time in Burbank Trawl Makers, this was downtown, right by the crab trap, Fernandina Beach, Florida. We were doing about 3,000, 3,500 new nets a year, plus on how many repairs. We do repairs, but we had 18 employees working with us. I mean, there was some nets that we could build 10 and 12, some of them 18 in a day. These nets were Honduras and South America. So if you just took how many years, like 107 years, right now we've been in business, 107 years.
That's amazing.
And then you can just pick a number, like I told you when we were, but it's nowhere near that now. We're probably doing 200 or 300 a year right now versus 3,500.
Now the nets you're making today,
Yeah.
are they going out to places that are just hard to imagine right now?
No, not anymore, because we lost that. For one, the import, export, and the freight costs are phenomenal trade. And all these third world countries that we used to deal with have a tariff on anything that's made outside of their country that they can make in their countries 80%.
Oh wow.
So they can't afford to buy. Like if they wanted to get a TED already made up, they got to pay 80% duty on whatever that TED costs. TED's $800, 80 times 800.
Right.
So that's really cut all that out. And Standard Marine went out of business because of all that. When all this trade stuff got with China and everything that we were doing and all, it just started, everything started going haywire, you know. And all these other countries couldn't bring shrimp into the country unless they had a TED. Well, a lot of them quit shrimping.
I remember the relationship that your family had with Standard Marine.
Right, Hardy family.
When we used to come down. You know, that's where
Yeah.
that's where you got boat supply. I mean, if you had to have block or
Yeah.
whatever,
Anchor, chain, whatever.
you needed brakes for the winch or anything, that's where you went.
Yeah.
I can remember going down and seeing that place. It was, you know, I was a youngster at that time. I still remember thinking, man, this is an old building, and it was.
Yeah. It was.
But
Yeah.
it's still standing in Fernandina,
Yeah.
and I think they've made some renovations. It's no longer in the supply business. I think they're using it as turned into more of a gallery studio kind of.
Yeah, I haven't lately. I mean, I tried to get back into it myself for tourism reasons, you know, being downtown, and you know, because they call this place the birthplace of the shrimp industry, but it's the death of the shrimp industry. 'Cause it took all the tie-up places away. Got a dead waterfront there. There's nothing going on, you know, to speak of. Old Trent Galley docks.
Yeah, looking down there the other day when I dropped off the net here, I think I counted there were seven boats tied up.
Yeah, on the other end. David
On the
Cook's
other
boat.
end down there.
Yeah, those are non-productive boats. They're not. They don't. Most of those boats are just tying up. They're just paying
Right.
rent. Yeah.
It's certainly changed, and I know the industry itself is really suffering. You know, we were talking about fuel problems, fuel supply, the cost of fuel, not to mention you know, just getting supplies for the boat,
well,
paint, just you know, just maintenance items.
Yeah,
those prices have continued to go up.
Yeah, just hunt it down. You know, you can go to Amazon like everybody else is going, find all kind of stuff. But the thing about it is, the fuel price. I just checked with one of my customers, one of my good customers, and he was just putting 15,000 gallons on his big rock shrimp fleet. You know, just one boat, $4.41 a gallon.
Wow.
Said he bought it for $3.79 the last time he filled up. Now it's $4.41.
That's a huge difference. Huge difference. Wow.
Yeah. So that's a lot of money to you better be unloading some shrimp.
Yeah.
But he don't know either. Nobody knows. If this diesel thing goes where it's going, I mean, that affects everything. I mean, I don't know.
It's certainly a lot different.
Well, I quit watching the news. I've tried to stay.
Sometimes it gets very depressing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I really haven't watched it. I couldn't tell you the weather. I didn't know there was a hurricane coming at one time. I didn't, you know, it's like it used to be. You know, we got these phones now. You wouldn't talk to nobody till you went home.
That's right.
You know, and then, you know, Mom would beat you if you didn't get home at the right time too, you know. Yep. Well, we're still managing to keep a tradition around, you know, and alive. The fourth generation hunter, he was with the sport net business, but he took a leave of that. He said, I've been behind the desk, Dad, for 11 years. I got to get out. I got to do something different. And so he's helping me out here some too now, but he's looking towards the King Bay area, Lockheed. Somebody over there knows somebody. He's you know, graduate of UNF with some honors and stuff like that, so he might get a decent job over there.
Yep.
He looked at this, he just hadn't been in it enough, and you can't expect a young guy that's never done this from a young age to.
And that's understandable. I mean, well, you can see it.
Yeah.
That's understandable.
Yeah. Yep. Now I got a grandson who's 3, and I mean, if he could help me, he would, because he'll come grab a needle right now and stick it in there. If he sees
wants
you
to be
dragging,
there.
he's dragging something out the other end. I love that. And they say granddaddy's gonna run him, but you daggone right. If I can make a man out of him, that's what I'm gonna do. Yep. Well, you know, the only thing I can say, I used to be way, way, way faster than what I am right now, but arthritis seems to take a little bit of a toll on your
Well,
coordination.
I'm just watching. You're doing pretty good.
And your coordination and everything else. And then, you know, I can see pretty good without my glasses, but I just like to wear them because I like to see where I'm going. You know? And I mean, there's years you don't have to look and see what you're doing. You can do it.
Just do it.
You can do it without looking at it.
Don't stitch your hand into that net.
Yeah, no, when you pull them knots, it'll cut your finger off. Yeah, I like your little operation. I like what you're doing. You know, it's a little unorthodox from what we've done. And there's another guy in Carolina was trying to explain that to me one day, what he was doing. And he said, I just drop everything over. I put an anchor on, I go back, get my bag, pull it up. But the way he was pulling it up from the very end of the bag. So he's dumping everything
Back out
just
the mouth.
about half out, back out the mouth. He was
Right.
wondering, he said, man, I know I got bigger drags than that. I said, I'm going to show you how to get bigger drags than that. So we got him straightened out.
But we could come up with a better system for that one. I'm all ears. So
Yeah.
I'm always.
Well, right now, I mean, for one, you're gonna like that. That's gonna get rid of anything too big. I didn't see a whole lot of trash on that one drag other than that short, but I think your bag's gonna be a lot bigger than that. I mean, I don't know how much shrimp you want, but I think the production's gonna come up. Because for one, we're going. The thing about the way you're trying to do it with that tickler chain, that is catastrophic, especially if you tried to just bring the net up to bring the doors to the boat, bring the bag around and dump it, and then set back out. Now, the only thing about setting back out, have you ever had your doors twisted or tangled or twisted up and you're making a drag and you ain't doing nothing?
Yes.
See, that's the problem with that.
Yes. Now, and I'll tell you, Capt. Billy, how I won't say I've eliminated because there's always a chance, but you got to be really cognizant of what the tide's doing, what the current's doing, and you always got to take up into the current.
Yeah.
Keep everything back behind
That's
the
right.
doors.
That's right. Because all right, now the way we're going to do this net, we're going to get rid of that tickler chain. That chain's a little light for what I'm doing anyway. I went another size heavier. I went to 3/16, and we're going to put a Texas type rig on it with 7-link drops. That's all it's going to be on your net. I'm going to have a loop chain on board, and it's going to be taken up to when your net's fishing. It's fishing just out in front of your net, and it's holding your net down. It's not going.
That's the Texas. What I always call that's a Texas tickler.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And you eliminate another piece that's down there that can get tangled
Get
up.
a wheel, a tangled up,
Whatever.
tangle around anything. Right. We eliminate that. Now, just down the road, just experimentation wise, you're dealing with doors and all. Really, up in the Virginia Bay up here, up in Virginia, I'm making nets that same size, goose, hooded goose like this is. In fact, this is a little bit different. This is a newer style. The top is fuller over the bottom, and we got the bottom cut further back. So once that shrimp goes in, he ain't
He's
coming
caught.
out. Yeah. But they're putting it on a beam, and they're only allowed a 16-foot beam. Now you probably got about an 8-foot beam on the boat or 7, something like that. See, if you could come up with a pinnable, collapsible beam to where you could have, if you had you some kind of little rack, because it ain't gonna be that heavy, just on the shoe part, to just set it up in a rack or turn it sideways to the boat, put it on a rack. Then when you get ready to set it over, let the net go out. When you unpin it, spin this thing around. When you stop now, it's gonna stay spreading the net. The net's still gonna be there with its float, the tongue up. Everything's there. You're gonna come back, pick your bag. When you go back, hook your bridles back up, it's ready to go. Everything's spread. You can go any way you want. Way less drag, way less fuel burning, because you're not gonna have to have near the throttle.
Because you don't have
You don't have the
auto
resistance.
doors
Yeah.
in there. I mean,
Right.
just a little bit of bend.
And I'm telling you what, with that rig, you can almost get into a strong current tide in the St. Andrews slough area or anywhere where the tide's running and anchor that thing down. That net's catching while it's just sitting there with the tide running through. Oh, some of the Teddy Cook and some of those guys used to pull the 3 wings. That's what they would do when they'd anchor up. They'd put one net down with the doors just breaking the water, kind of a top water trawl. Those shrimp, when the tides are really high and they're leaving,
Right.
those red-legged shrimp are going right out with them. So they just sit there and pick the bag up, put it back down, get some shrimp. So that's just a thought. I mean, you know, and really truly, that's a good sized door for what you got. Those doors right there will fish a 35-footer, you know, all day long. I mean, that's about the size of some of those bigger guys that just pull it all the way up,
Yeah.
pull the doors to the side of the boat, pick it up.
We're in the process of getting a little rigging, a little single boom kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
And more to help us getting the bag up and
Yeah, I see
over the gunnel.
2 guys. I mean, that's if you get
It's a
much
struggle
bigger.
with sometimes.
Yeah,
And of course, the way the law's written up there, everything's got to be done by hand. So we'll hang a block on a fall coming down and be able to magnify
Yeah.
our arm strength
yeah.
and be able to pull straight up on it and hopefully be able to get the break over the gun and get it in the boat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Other than that, I think it's just gonna clean it up a little bit with that Texas type rig on it. You're not gonna have.
I'm excited about that.
And this, you know, everything's gonna be locked in when it's hung because it's dipped. The dip ain't as good as it used to be. I mean, it don't stay in the net very long, but it's enough to get you by. And then the next time you just need something checked over, you bring it back.
Bring it back, pre-dip it.
Yeah.
How often does it?
You
net?
don't.
Every year?
just a
Every other year?
Yeah, when you get ready to put it up or something like that. And if you do store it where, because rats, anything will chew just
Sure.
where it smells, you know.
Yeah.
So, but, and the other net, like I say, it's just a copy. It's a copy. I know the river guys up there, they're good. A lot of people bought some stuff from them, but, you know.
There's things about that net. I'm just not I'm not a fan of the material it's made of. It's.
Well, that's twisted. That's the cheapest poly you can buy. Even though
I can't sew it. Everything I try to sew, it comes undone.
Well, see, this is braided right here. This is a different animal. This is tough stuff. This is very strong poly, and the knots lock in this stuff. You know, this is a braided polyethylene right here. It's called sapphire. Yeah, Mr. Bill Pop Burbank used to have a fish house, net shop, chicken, eggs, and all right at Center Street. You're going right down Center Street. You can look at the docks when you first hit
Sure.
the railroad tracks. That's
Yeah.
where it used to be right there.
Wow.
And there was
Times they haven't changed though.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Real estate up there is probably a little expensive for chicken farming.
No, I mean, you sold chicken, eggs, fish. There was a market like, you know.
Right, yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But I sure liked it back in the days when it was the old straight brick street. It was just all brick and straight, no more cars parked along the line.
I remember those days.
And
Roughest ride you'd ever go down, but it was just it was a neat. Man, you got a neat feel when you rode down there.
Yeah. My granddaddy told a story one time. He said, yeah, he said, when we were downtown there, you know, he said, the old ladies, call them the old wives, they would all stop by my place to buy an egg, a chicken, a shrimp, fish, Captain Bill, you see my husband? Yeah, sure have. Where is he? He's in the barber shop over there with the, what was the name of those guys? I forget. They cut hair for a long, long time. But he's in the barber shop, and the other girl that was with her, the old lady, well, where's mine? Is he getting haircuts? No, yours is in the Palace Saloon. He's been in there all morning. Yeah. So they go to Capt Bill to find out where their husbands was. Yeah. That was some good old days. We done lived through the good days, I believe, Andy. We done lived through the good
It
days.
is, yeah, you talk about Fernandina's glory
60s,
days
70s.
in the shrimping, Brunswick area was the same way I can remember as a kid. You go down the waterfront, and there'd be 50 or 60 boats at a fish house,
Yeah.
rafted
Oh, yeah.
up, from all over.
Well, it's like here. See, I mean, and they asked me about the shrimp industry. In fact, I got a talk in January about it. But I said, you've still got room to do it. These North and South Carolina boats follow these shrimp south. When the water starts getting cold, they got to go somewhere to shrimp. And they would come into Fernandina, 30 or 40 of them. They would tie up. They'd buy the groceries at the grocery stores. They'd get a taxi or rent a truck, or they'd go to the Palace Saloon. They would hang out, spend money in Fernandina, and they unloaded right here in Fernandina. So it ain't that part of it's gone away. There's not as many boats, but they're still there. I mean, I stopped by to see a customer there before you called me. I was on my way back from my doctor's appointment, and there was 4 boats tied up, and I mean the shrimp were being unloaded, white shrimp, rock shrimp. They were unloading them in pallets, just pallet loads, taking on fuel. That's what that 441 fuel was. Gate truck pulled in there.
I can remember as a kid, you go to the fish house and, a heading table there in the center of the fish house, 50 or 60 feet long.
Yeah.
And
That's a
you
sight
have the
to see.
headers in there, heading, singing,
Yeah.
and there might be 80 headers at one time working when the fish
Oh,
house
yeah.
was busy.
That's something to see. People have never seen that. That is.
I wish I'd had video, but video capabilities when I was, because it was really
Well,
neat to see.
Well, if you find one, even like in the Brunswick area right now, and you break out a camera, they all start ducking and diving and running. They think you're going to take a picture and put it on Facebook or something.
You just, the guys that are really producing now are, they're freezer boats, and those
Yeah.
shrimp for the most part have been processed. They've been
Yeah,
headed.
that's
They're
right.
coming out in bags, and they're going to thaw them and pack them right there. And
That's right.
You just don't see it anymore.
Yep. Yep.
What is the most productive shrimping rig that's out there right now?
The net itself.
Yeah. What's the rig?
The hottest thing going around, most popular is 55-foot hooded goose. That's the new net they're making. That's what this is right here. This is a 55 hooded goose. What makes it a hooded goose? It's an extended tongue where this seam is right here. That's how much further ahead it is than a regular mongoose. But what makes it special is a regular mongoose that I designed back in the 70s to beat the Cobra, which was a tongue net in the Gulf. Me and Bill Skipper named it that way. But it's cut out like this, a bigger horseshoe of each side of the tongue, just like the net you've got.
Okay.
You're pulling it like that. All right. But what I did was, instead of doing the dish out, I cut it out way less. The dish is smaller, and I left more webbing in the middle so I could extend the tongue out. Now, what this is doing is getting this net over those shrimp. White shrimp are schooling. They're like covey of quail when they get up. They feel the net coming. They're schooling thick. When they're real thick, they'll kick. They'll be going over the top of the net fishing 15 foot high. So what I did was put this hood coverage over it, and I cut the bottom line further back. So now they're way back in here. Once they get their action going, they can't outrun you.
Right.
Especially these guys can tow these nets 3 knots. Okay, they keep them on the bottom, 3 knots, 3/8 chain, heavy doors, And, but really the hottest rig is 4 of those, 68 footer, 4 68 footers. Now, when you look at the top peak of this room that we're in, this building, the peak of that right there, whatever that height may be, but this net's capable of 25 foot of height in the water, the way it is.
Oh, wow.
So imagine 4 of those side by side, and if
So
there's any amounts of shrimp.
They're getting well over 120
Yeah,
foot
yeah,
spread
well,
on each side.
They're having some healthy trips. I mean, like 90,000 pounds, just chalked down, can't stomp the hatch no more. At $3.50 a pound, what is that?
Yeah.
90,000 pounds at $3.50.
It's not a bad trip.
No, that's not a bad trip. And so anyway, so that's pretty much. And then you got some of this high dollar stuff over here, which is ultra cross, knotless Dyneema. And it's
That's Dyneema?
yeah, well, it's Dyneema, right? And you know, we sell a lot of Dyneema nets, knotted and whatever. That's knotless. That stuff retails for around $70 a pound. It's not light, but it's still expensive. And it's strong, but then again, when you knock a hole in that, you can't just repair it like a regular net, because once you get close to the knot, it comes apart. You know, as long as you're away from the knot, you're okay. But if you get anywhere near the knot breaks, it comes apart.
Oh, wow.
So, but it's a lot less fuel resistance. You can only run it 100 deep instead of 200 deep in the bales, so it's a lot more work for a net maker. We got to sew more times to get the net built, and it ain't easy to sew. So the nets cost.
Now, when you sew it, you sew that back with Dyneema?
Huh?
Do you sew that back with Dyneema?
Yeah,
Like Dyneema?
yeah, the same twine, and we have to do what we call factory knots. I mean, you can't do just a regular overhand loop like I'm doing right now. You have to use a factory knot so that it don't slide.
Don't slide on the material.
All that takes a little more time.
It's crazy when you sit back and look at innovations that have come around.
Yeah. You know, well, and like this fixed angle TED, I came up with that a few years back. And that's been, I mean, that is a no-brainer there. That thing makes shrimp. It don't lose any shrimp. With the bars close like that, I mean, you're getting rid of just about everything. That's why we got more sharks. All the baby sharks that used to drown, they ain't drowning no more. And going out the top, that's the way the turtle wants to go anyway.
He wants to stay.
He's
trying to get to the
going
air.
up.
He's
not trying to get shoved out here. He's trying to get up here. And you could actually pull these without a flap on them, and they still catch shrimp. And that's 55 degrees of angle. The reason I made it fixed is I'm tired of somebody getting on your boat with a protractor.
Well, hey.
Some of them don't even know how to read it, and then give you a $10,000 fine because the angle ain't right.
You're not right.
So
There's no denying that.
well, that's just what it is. You lay it on the ground. What is it? Put the angle, put the protractor on it. That's what it is. And it's a little bit bulky and all that, but hey, you find a place to hang it when you pick everything up. It is right there.
Bring the camera over here so folks
Yes,
can
sir.
take a look and understand what it is you're just talking about.
Yeah, and it hadn't been finished completely all the way because it's you know, you got to have the flap cut out and roped all the way in. It's just sitting in there ready.
This is what he's talking about right here. As stuff comes in, it's going to hit that, and the big stuff is going to get moved, and the small stuff, the shrimp, is going to go right on back to the cod end of the net.
That's right. It's a fixed angle TED.
And it is fixed. Here you can see, these things in the past have just been made where they kind of tied in and they kind of just float around in the net. But you can see here he's added this on here, whether this is fixed. It's this angle, and they monitor this angle. State and federal guys will get on and they will check this. And if it's
55
not
degrees.
correct, you can get put out of business. But I mean, it's a big deal. But there's no denying this. Once this thing's set, you can't change that angle, and it is set in a really neat rig. rig. And a beautiful piece of work. Just take a look at that.
The innovations that the Burbank Trawl Company continue to make are just really impressive. Their commitment to not only continuing a tradition of 107 years, but to also make it more efficient and better for the environment means all around better for us. We certainly want to thank Captain Billy Burbank for spending a little time with us. And we're really excited about our new Mongoose Net that is soon to be on the Minorcan Mullet and trawling in Georgia. Hey, you guys take care. We're going to ask if you haven't done it yet, you'll click on that subscribe button. You'll send us some comments. But most of all, hey, we want you guys to stay safe out there.